Hi, I'm Mark Wien, and welcome to my lesson on playing your lines in the pocket. Now, the 4 preceding lessons have all been about all the harmonic and melodic things that we can do, note choices that make your lines more interesting. In this lesson, we're going to talk briefly about the rhythmic things that you should do to make this stuff actually sound right. Most guitar players don't learn how to read music from the beginning, and because of that, they don't normally learn how to read rhythms or count rhythms or internalize time like most other instrumentalists do. So one of the things I try and do is reinforce the idea that all music has a quarter note pulse through it, and then we subdivide it up into smaller bits, 2s or 3s or 4s, and sometimes we have a straight 8th note feel, sometimes we have a shuffle 8th note feel. But your body physically feels that all the way through whenever you're playing music, even if you're not counting. Now, I'm going to give you a couple of exercises to do with the metronome. We're actually using my handy smartphone metronome today. There's going to be some supplemental information in the download. There's going to be a complete other lesson, no video, but there's going to be MP3s and PDFs of it was an extra lesson I did, a rehearsal recording from my album called Jack's Jump. And it's like a jump blues. So it's going to be a swing feel, and there's a ton of transcribed licks in there for you. And the MP3s are at full speed, half speed, and 3/4 speed for you to work with. Remember, it was just a recorded on iPhone rehearsal, so it's not the highest quality audio, but it will definitely do the trick for you. It'll give you a lot of content to work with this. There's also going to be some information from my book, Foundations from Guitar, in there, talking about how to subdivide time and how to play different feels. The first thing we're going to do is we're just going to talk about how time works in music. With guitar, the most important thing to me is this idea of pulse. And for me, a pulse is a steady stream of notes or beats that happen. They don't speed up, they don't slow down unless you're doing an ending or something. But for the most part in a piece of music, you always want to feel that pulse. That's usually where I tap my foot or where people tell you to tap your foot. With the metronome, I've got this set to 70 beats per minute. And those 70 beats per minute, that tells me how fast the metronome is going. And the word for that is tempo. Now, obviously, this isn't what music sounds like, right? This is just a measuring stick. And in the previous segment, I actually played with the metronome set where I was just clicking on beats 2 and 4. I was actually playing 140 beats a minute and counting 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And that gives me kind of a backbeat feel for a bluesy thing. For what we're doing right now, we're actually just talking about playing half that speed, or learning tempo, at 70, and we're going to start dividing it up into smaller bits. Now, if I put this on, we're going to take that pulse, and I want you to tap your foot, and we're going to play any note. In this case, I'm just playing the 5th fret on the 6th string, which is an A note. And for quarter notes, 1, 2, 3, I'm just picking down on these. If I was going to do 8th notes, now here's the thing about subdivisions, is that we've got terms like 8th note and triplet and 16th note, but at the end of the day, we're taking this pulse and we're dividing it up into 2 halves, 3/3, 4/4, and so on. We're just subdividing, all right? So even if you're not a good music reader, you don't have a lot of music education, this shouldn't be scary. Just think of it as we're dividing this up into smaller bits. First thing we're going to do is we're going to divide it in half. So metronome is on, we're feeling that pulse, and we're doing our 8th notes, or 2s. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, or 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and we can do it as triplets. 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet, and those are 3s. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 versus 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. You can also do 16th notes where there's 4 slices per beat. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and or 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, even without worrying about how to count this stuff, I can leave that metronome going and I can actually play just up a scale. I'm just playing eighth notes or dividing each one into two. I'm still feeling with my foot. I'm tapping my foot on that quarter note. And this is one reason why we practice scales. Even if you're practicing your pentatonic or blues scale, we want to mechanically be able to feel where that subdivision is. It's not that we're going to be playing straight lines like this when you play music. This would be pretty boring. Or when people play sequences. This sort of thing's not very musical either. But what we do is we use those things to train ourselves how to feel. We want to remember how it feels to play music in time. So when we play something like I just did, I can actually just keep that stream of subdivision going through my body, and I play what I need out of it. We'll get to that in a minute. Now, for blues music, or swing, or jazz, we also have what are called shuffled or swung eighth notes. All right? 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and at the core of that is a triplet. 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, or 1 2 3, 1 2 3, 1 2 3. And the idea here is you're playing the first and the third of those triplet subdivisions. I can go 1 2 3, 1 2 3, 1 2 3, 1 2 3. And that kind of gives the same feel as when we're playing a shuffled guitar rhythm. So the first thing is how do we apply this information to guitar? And the very first thing that we do is let's learn how to practice something that will help us get the mechanics of it. Now, we're going to start with eighth notes. And you want to remember, for right now, we want to pick down on the click and up in between clicks. We call the first half of each beat the downbeat. And the upbeat is the second half, or where we say and, or if you're counting 1, 2, it's the 2. All right? So we're going to turn this on. 1 and 2 and I'm just going to play a minor pentatonic scale. Just go up something that you guys should probably be pretty familiar with. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and the picking down, up, down, up, down, up. Right? If you can't do it that quickly, slow the metronome down. It's way more important to do these things slow and execute properly than it is to try and run through them quickly and not know where you're not doing it correctly. The biggest problem students I have run into, those problems are usually because they're trying to play something up to the speed of a song and not actually at a speed where they can execute it and ensure that they're doing it correctly. So we start at a slow tempo, get used to this, record yourself perhaps so you can listen back and make sure you're doing it where it sounds good, and then we speed things up. All right. We can do triplets. Right? We're going to go 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4. Now, no matter where I am relative to the strings, I'm alternate picking. And with the triplet, we run into the problem where since we have a group of 3 per beat and we have 2 possible pick directions, every other beat is going to start on an up pick. So we got down, up, down for one beat, and then up, down, up for the next one. In order to make this feel like a triplet, you tend to accent the first of each group of 3. All right, and that's what actually helps it fall into place. So we got 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet. You know, versus eighth notes. Now, if we want to swing these, or play them over a shuffle, they're still going to be written as straight eighth notes. But we know to feel them like there's a triplet going through. 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet, or 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 2 and 3 and 4. When I played that little bit before, that whole solo, because it's a swing feel, it's got that triplet to it. I was just playing twice the speed. But if I was to take something like the Mixolydian scale that we learned in the last lesson and go up that, we get eighth notes. Remember, alternate pick everything, down on downbeats, up on upbeats. The reason for this is because it's not something that sounds a certain way. You could be playing this with your nose for all it matters. The audience isn't going to tell or be able to tell what you're doing to get that sound. But they will be able to feel if it's not consistent. And we want to consistently feel where the downbeat and the upbeat is. I don't want to think about these things. I don't want to be guessing what direction the pick should go in the middle of a line. I want it automatic. I want it easy. It's like when a pitcher throws 10,000 baseballs to work on a pitch. When he gets up on the mound to throw a ball in a game, it's automatic. It's muscle memory. We're trying to build some muscle memory to help you play in time without having to think about it. Because as soon as you think when you're making music, you're dead in the water. We want to play at the level of instinct, and this is part of it, is training you to feel that. One thing that's real important to me is that when I'm starting a piece of music, and if the drummer's giving a count off, or if I'm playing with a click track in a recording studio, I'm always feeling the passage of time. I'm feeling the quarter note pulse, I'm feeling these subdivisions. And if I'm going to play a pickup phrase, I'm going to make sure that I'm actually got my pick in the direction that we're talking about. If we're playing eighth notes, I'm going to pick up on the and. If I start something like this, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, and 4 triplet, 1, right? And that actually puts me into the pack. All right, and then I'm actually in the groove for that. You know, I'm in the right place. I'm not starting off backwards. And that's one of those things I have students where they, you know, wherever they start, they always start with the down pick. Or when they change strings, they always change strings with the next string being, like if they're going one string down from the string they're on, they'll always start that next one with a down pick. You know, or if they're going this direction, they'll always start each string with an up pick. And that's called economy picking. And if you're really technically proficient, that can be a great way of playing. And maybe 5 or 10% of the time, I do that as well. But when I'm trying to get people to play in time, I try and make sure that they're feeling these downbeats with the down pick and the upbeats with the up pick. All right, and they've actually just got a sense of where this time is at. So really keep that in mind as you work through stuff like this. We've spent the last 4 lessons talking about the melodic content of your lines. In this lesson, talking a little bit about the rhythmic content. And to me, it's really important that you look at anything you play as a melody, something that you could sing. Now, sometimes it can be crazy and chaotic, and sometimes it can be slow and with longer notes. But at the end of the day, it needs to be in tune, and it needs to make sense to the listener's ear, and it also just needs to be in time. So with all of the stuff that I've given you guys for these 5 video lessons, I want you to kind of go back and each of the examples, see if you can play it with a metronome. See if you can play it and sing it back. Do you know it well enough in your mind's ear that you can hear it? Make all of these examples and licks and ideas that I've given you music.